Hi everyone, so welcome to one more fantastic 5 MCQs discussion for upcoming NEET PG FMG. This is Dr. Bharath, your pharma faculty. Let us start with the first MCQ. 60-year-old CKD, chronic kidney disease patient, is undergoing pyeloplasty. Which of the following is best suited post-operative analgesic for this patient? Among the options, you have to choose the best analgesic. So patient is having chronic kidney disease and he is undergoing a surgery, and after surgery he needs pain relief. Option A, diclofenac, naproxen, indomethacin, acetaminophen. So if you are telling option D, acetaminophen, then you are correct. What is acetaminophen? Acetaminophen is also called as paracetamol. So paracetamol is an NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Now please understand, diclofenac, naproxen, indomethacin, all these are NSAIDs. They are all analgesic drugs. Then why paracetamol is preferred? Why not others? Now the others in the option, they inhibit the enzyme COX. They decrease prostaglandins. Now these NSAIDs have analgesic property, anti-inflammatory property, and antipyretic property. But these decrease prostaglandins, and over the time they decrease GFR, and they can cause renal failure, analgesic nephropathy. So they can damage the kidney further. So that is a drawback of all NSAIDs. So patient is already on CKD, and if I give these NSAIDs, it will worsen it. So the safest in CKD patient is paracetamol, because paracetamol is not going to cause this analgesic nephropathy. That is why it is the answer for this question. Now, what is the drugs we use during pains? Remember, pains may be three types: neuropathic, visceral or cancer pain, or inflammatory pain. For neuropathic pain, what we use is the drugs such as gabapentin or pregabalin, or we can use for trigeminal neuralgia a drug called carbamazepine. So visceral pain or cancer pain, what we use are opioids like morphine. For inflammatory pains, we use NSAID. Now the question is, what is the specialty of paracetamol then? Why it is not going to cause analgesic nephropathy? Paracetamol inhibits a special type of COX called COX-3, and that is particularly in the brain. So it has mainly antipyretic property, analgesic property, but it has very poor anti-inflammatory property. Now it is one of the safest. Paracetamol is one of the safest. You can give it in children, you can give it in pregnant, you can give it in lactating mother, you can give it in CKD patients, no problem. But only one drawback of paracetamol, if you are using at high dose, it can lead to hepatotoxicity. And even if you are using it chronically, that will lead to damage to the liver. And the toxic metabolite that damages is NEETPG. And what is the antidote for this? Most of you know it. It's a revision for you all. It is N-acetylcysteine. So coming back to the question, the answer for this is patient having CKD and we require analgesic, you can give paracetamol, also called as acetaminophen. Right. So let us move on to the second question. A 55-year-old male come to OPD with end-stage renal disease. All we are finding end-stage renal disease in this part. Not having urine output, so he is having CKD. Not having urine output like anuria. And has peripheral edema. So he has edema also, peripheral edema. And he has hypertension, so we have to put the patient on antihypertensive. Which antihypertensive is safe to be prescribed to this patient to manage hypertension? So patient is having CKD, urine output is not there, there is peripheral edema and hypertension. So which one will it choose? Now let us take up one by one and discuss. Understand what is aliskiren. It ends with IREN. IREN means it's an inhibitor of renin. It's a renin inhibitor given orally, but it blocks the RAS pathway, so it can increase potassium levels. Now, in a patient who is already having CKD, their potassium handling is not proper, so there is a chance of hyperkalemia, and if you add this, there is dangerous hyperkalemia and arrhythmia can happen. So I am not going to give that. Moving on to amlodipine. Amlodipine belongs to CCB. It's one of the first line antihypertensive. But if you see the adverse effect, two common adverse effect what we see on long term is the gum hyperplasia, and patient may develop pedal edema. Apart from that, patient will also develop hypotension, flushing, everything. But see, patient is already having peripheral edema here. Now this drug will cause pedal edema. Should I prescribe this? No. Now coming to chlorthalidone. Chlorthalidone belongs to thiazide diuretic. Thiazide diuretics act on early part of DCT. They inhibit sodium chloride import, and these are mild diuretics. These are medium efficacy diuretic, but they are mild antihypertensives. Already if patient is in the end stage of kidney disease, remember thiazides won't work if there is already CKD, because the kidney has to secrete them, then only they will work. So if a patient is having hypertension and CKD, the diuretic that will work is the loop diuretics. The thiazides will not work. Now tell me, suppose a patient has hypertension plus CKD. Let me tell you the GFR is around 15 ml per minute. So which thiazides may work? This was another question asked. Thiazides won't work in CKD, but there is one thiazide which can work. I'll give the name of that. It starts with M, and one more which can also work is I. So tell me the thiazides which start with the name M and I, which can work if there is hypertension with CKD. So here chlorthalidone will not work. So what is remaining is prazosin. Prazosin is an alpha blocker. If it is an alpha blocker, it causes vasodilation and decrease the BP. The most important problem with this is post-hypotension, the sexual dysfunction, that is inhibition of ejaculation. So among the option, the best one which I have to choose is prazosin. A very beautiful question to understand the case, to come to the answer properly. Okay, so any doubt in this, you can put it in the comment section and then we'll discuss further. Moving on to the third MCQ, again a very good question. A patient with atrial fibrillation was on digoxin. He was started on potassium chloride. He was started on triamtrin and clarithromycin and aspirin. So before I go, what is digoxin? Digoxin is the cardiac glycoside. It inhibits sodium potassium ATPase in the heart. So it can be used to manage CHF, congestive heart failure, and also it has vasomotor property, so we use it in managing atrial fibrillation. Suppose a patient has CHF and risk of atrial fibrillation, then I can give digoxin. Patient was given potassium chloride, triamtrin. What is triamtrin? It's a potassium sparing diuretic. It is an ENaC inhibitor. Clarithromycin is an antibiotic. Aspirin is an NSAID and antiplatelet drug. So patient developed atrial fibrillation with controlled ventricular rate. So patient developed that, and digoxin level is 1.5 nanogram and it is increased to 3.5. It was earlier 1.5. It increased to 3.5. Which of the following drug is responsible for this? So patient was already on digoxin, then 4 drugs were added: triamtrin, potassium chloride, aspirin and clarithromycin. So take your time and try to answer this. So if you are telling clarithromycin, then you are right. See, what happened now is, whenever we added this drug, the digoxin level went up. Digoxin is a drug which has narrow therapeutic index. Usually it should be maintained between 0.8 to 2.0 nanogram per ml. So here it is above. The drug levels have increased. Now triamtrin is a potassium sparing diuretic, so it increases potassium. Potassium chloride itself will increase potassium. See, remember, digoxin toxicity or levels are increased by hypokalemia, hypomagnesemia and hypercalcemia. So increase in potassium is not going to increase digoxin toxicity. So these drugs are not going to do anything. Aspirin has not so much of interaction with digoxin. Then what about clarithromycin? What is it? Now, what is clarithromycin? Clarithromycin belongs to inhibitor of P-glycoprotein. What is P-glycoprotein? Suppose I write this is the intestine and this is the intestinal cell. Whenever we give digoxin, let us assume we are giving 100 digoxin. All the 100 will enter, absorb. But we have a policeman called as P-glycoprotein who will not allow all the 100. He will throw back 50 out. So that's why when I give 100, only 50 will enter, 50 will go out normally. Just take an example. Now, when I give digoxin with clarithromycin, clarithromycin inhibits this P-glycoprotein. Now what happens? All the 100 will enter inside and it will lead to more digoxin level in the circulation. And that is why you can see the levels have increased and you can see the typical arrhythmia, atrial tachycardia with AV block. That's why control ventricular rate. This is most specific arrhythmia. Tell me, what is the most specific arrhythmia seen with digoxin overdose? Yes, atrial tachycardia with AV block. Okay, the heart rate would have come down. There is atrial fibrillation or flutter. So the answer is clarithromycin. Now tell me, what is the drug of choice for these two conditions? Digoxin induced VT, tell me what is the drug of choice? SVT, what is the drug of choice? Tell me the antidote for digoxin. These three you should tell me now. Okay? Yes. Moving on to the next question, MCQ. Which of the following is the formula for calculating dosing rate? See, these are all for NEET PG pattern of exams. Try to concentrate if you are preparing for NEET PG, these things. Dosing rate depends on number one, target plasma concentration, how much you want to achieve, and clearance of the drug. So the answer for this question is option B. The others are not going to suit. Now please understand two important formula, maintenance dose and loading dose. Maintenance dose is given by how much you want to achieve, that is target plasma concentration, into clearance of the drug, into if you are giving it repeatedly, dosing interval. So that is the formula for maintenance dose. If you are giving the drug by oral, then we get bioavailability in the denominator. What about loading dose? Loading dose is target plasma concentration into volume of distribution divided by if you have bioavailability F. So this is the formula for maintenance dose and loading dose. Remember, maintenance dose depends on clearance, loading dose depends on volume of distribution. Suppose you are giving the drug by IV, the F will not be there because F is bioavailability. In IV, F is equal to 1. Coming to half-life, half-life is given by T of is 0.693 divided by K. K is nothing but elimination rate constant. So many a times in NEET PG, these type of questions appear. That's why I'm going for general pharma questions like that. So maintenance dose is nothing but same time like infusion rate. So if you are infusing a drug, then it depends on target plasma concentration into clearance. Since it is infusion, dosing rate will not come to the picture. Since infusion is IV, F will not come to the picture. That's why infusion rate or dosing rate is given by clearance into plasma concentration. So what they are testing is the maintenance dose. Yes, coming to the next question, again beautiful question. A patient with breathlessness, chest pain and irregular heartbeat, the atrial fibrillation. She is a known case of mitral stenosis. So patient is having a valvular heart disease. Along with that, irregular heart rate, that is atrial fibrillation. Echo is showing no normal, no thrombi. What is the best way to prevent thrombosis in the patient? So remember, valvular heart disease or a stent or prosthetic, sorry, not a stent, sorry. valvular heart disease or a prosthetic heart valve. Prosthetic heart valve. The problem is it can generate the thrombi. It can generate thrombi, and the thrombi may dislodge and enter the brain, and patient may have stroke. So for prophylaxis, we have to give anticoagulant. So which one should we prescribe to this patient? A, oral warfarin, dabigatran, aspirin, aspirin plus clopidogrel. So try to answer this. Yes, if you're telling option A, warfarin, then you are right. That is the anticoagulant. So remember, suppose patient has valvular heart disease and atrial fibrillation. Remember, when there is atrial fibrillation, the blood will have stasis. Stasis will lead to clot. So we use an anticoagulant, and that is oral warfarin. So that is the one which we use for prophylaxis. Patient doesn't have a clot. You have seen the case. But I don't want the patient to develop clot. Then I give warfarin, the best drug. Suppose patient has no valvular heart disease. And he has atrial fibrillation. So atrial fibrillation can generate a clot. That time we can use the novel anticoagulant, oral anticoagulant, also called as direct acting oral anticoagulants. In that we have drugs such as dabigatran, or we can give 10A, direct 10A inhibitors. They end with hexaban. Tell me some direct 10A inhibitors. So these two are prescribed. So please read the question carefully. If there is valvular heart disease with AF, then oral warfarin. Non-valvular heart disease with AF, then you can give newer drugs, dabigatran or hexabans. Now what you have to tell me is the antidote for dabigatran, the antidote for hexaban, and the antidote for warfarin in the comment section. Now I told you dabigatran would have become the answer if there was no valvular heart disease. Aspirin, clopidogrel are for MI, stroke prophylaxis. So coming back, we are done with 5 beautiful questions. Very, very important for your NEET PG particularly. Thank you all. And any doubt you can post in the group. Thank you.